Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. The Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Bringing you the latest from the world of daily fantasy sports and gambling, so you can stop Googling how to join a squid game to cover all those parlays you thought were such a sure thing. Now, sit back and listen to one of the sharpest minds in the game. Here's your host, Dwayne Callender.
All right, folks, it is Sunday Fun Day, so we got two different episodes. This one, I'm going to concentrate more on the Super Bowl betting-wise, and then I'll do a separate one for a showdown breakdown across the different websites, because the three contests are different enough where you got to have to be a little bit more strategic. So I'll just do that in a separate episode, but I want to concentrate on the betting side and prop picks, because for the Super Bowl, I think this one's a very straightforward game. To be honest, I know folks have been talking up the Bengals and Team of Destiny, this, that, and the other, but the reality of the situation is here, with this Bengals matchup against the Rams, this is just a bad matchup in general. And I say it's a bad matchup in general because what the Bengals are trying to do, they want to get blitz, they want pressure, so they get more one-on-one coverage with their receivers. What the Rams do is they get pressure with their front linemen. So this game will look like the Raiders game, except the Rams are so much more talented than the Raiders, and the Raiders team still gave the Bengals fits. The way better secondary, better defensive line, and they're going to generate pressure. This is a tough matchup in general for the Bengals. So to me personally, I know folks want to bet the Bengals, but the reality of the situation is, and I talked about this before, the reality of the situation is, this Rams line, honestly, should have been 6.5. It should have been 6.5. That's the realistic line. If we were being honest with ourselves here, can the Rams win by a touchdown? That's the honest line. This line opened at 3. I hammered that line at 3. I went after the line. It's like, even if Cam Akers wasn't healthy, I was going to hammer that Rams line, because even with Sony Michel, the Rams, unless, again, Stafford implodes, which is entirely possible, but all things being equal, this is a straightforward matchup for the Rams. The line opened at 3. It moved to 3.5. It moved to 4. It moved up to 4.5. Public keeps betting it, and so now you got to right around 4. But realistically, this line should be 6.5. There really isn't that compelling of a reason to say that the Rams should not be comfortably ahead. So to me, this is one of those games where you can bet alternative lines. And so I'll talk about it on DraftKings, some of the alternative lines you can get. You can get the 6.5 line at DraftKings for plus money. You don't have to pay the VIG. You get it at plus money. The Rams money line was minus 200. Getting the Rams minus 4, you're still paying the VIG. So you're paying minus 120 on the VIG at most websites. DraftKings and FanDuel, you can get alternative lines. The best line I saw for the minus 6.5 was DraftKings at the plus 120. You can take that. If you really think it's going to be a blowout and it goes double digits, I've already said this before. I think these teams play 100 times. 70 times, the Rams win by double digits. This is not a good matchup for the Bengals. Point blank. Yes, they will play hard. I know the Bengals will play hard. It's their Super Bowl, this, that, and the other. Yes, it's entirely true. They can play their hearts out. It's a terrible matchup in general. So, you can take Rams minus 9.5. That's 180. I've seen at DraftKings. I also saw that at Caesars. So you could shop around for lines at whichever place you're betting at. You can be more flexible in terms of shopping for lines. You don't have to just stake yourself to one spot. you can navigate through different websites, whether it's DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, MGM. PointsBet is active now in New York. You can shop to see who has better lines in terms of the payout, because, you know, that a couple extra bumps up, it makes a difference if you're wagering a couple $100, and you're not paying the vig when you're doing these alternative lines, because the line was so low that if you put it where it should be at -6.5, yeah, you're going to get plus money. It's to your benefit. It is to your benefit. So, you know, you should take advantage of it, in my opinion. If you really believe in the Bengals side, and yes, there are possibilities of Stafford imploding. If you truly believe the Bengals side, I think the best way to go about it is to take the teaser, take the points, take your 6-point teaser, and bet the Bengals up so that you get the Bengals either plus 10 or plus 10.5, and then you get the over with that teaser so that you can get it somewhere around a 42. Or better yet, take the Bengals alternative line at like 10, 10.5, and take an alternative line and do it as a same game parlay with DraftKings or FanDuel. This is where you should be taking advantage of these same game parlays with these other shops that you wouldn't get at traditional sports books. Take advantage of the opportunities you have to mix and match certain game scripts. Because if you're trying to bet the Bengals, you have to get creative. I'm sorry. The way for the Bengals to win this game is not going to be with the traditional Joe Burrow just force feeding the ball to Jamar Chase on deep passing route. It's just not a productive way of going about it. Joe Burrow's going to have to try to dink and dunk and throw under pressure, like do it Tom Brady style, and try to dump it off passes. So to me, you could take Joe Mixon or Samaje Perine and look at their reception props and go from there. I actually like the Perine prop because Perine props are ridiculously low. He had props that were basically less than 10 yards receiving and only 1.5 receptions. Like, that's crazy. Samaje Perine and Mixon, and Perine's the third down back. So Mixon's not even in full time. So you got a third down back who can catch passes out of the backfield, and he has a prop of 1.5 receptions. Doesn't even make sense. Like, you hammer that. You have to hammer that. And I'm on the Rams side, but realistically, if the Rams are up, the Bengals are going to be throwing the ball around. So I like taking Perine's reception prop because it's way too low. I like taking Mixon's receiving yards prop because at 25.5, yeah, the Bengals are going to be trailing more often than not. So yeah, they're going to be dumping the ball off to Mixon. It just lends itself to throwing with Joe Burrow to the running backs to get his team yardage to be competitive. So I like taking Joe Burrow's pass attempts over 36.5 because realistically, they are not running the ball efficiently against this Rams front. It's just not happening. And if you're down, why are you trying to run the ball? Like, you got to be trying to move the ball through the air if you're the Bengals, because you're going to be trailing more than likely, unless this is a Matt Stafford implosion game where he turns the ball over with a pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there are very few scenarios where I see the Bengals leading at half. This is more of a Bengals try to come back in the second half and the Rams punt this game away. That's the way I see this having to work out. I don't like the Jamar Chase scenario of everyone focusing in on Chase because the receptions, his prop was over 5.5 receptions, and truth be told, if you look at the Bengals games throughout the year, his receptions over six receptions, he kind of missed that he didn't hit that for 7 games this year. That's a pretty high percentage for a number one wideout. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that you can't play Jamar Chase. What I'm saying is, him being force-fed the ball, not as likely a scenario in this matchup, because realistically, they're going to have coverage over the top, and it's easier to win with Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins. I think they try to neutralize Chase and don't go one-on-one. I don't see how they go one-on-one with Jamar Chase and Ramsey. In fact, I think the Bengals would want the Rams to be overconfident enough to play Ramsey one-on-one against Jamar Chase. I don't think Ramsey wants that smoke. It doesn't even make sense. And so I just think that for the game script of what's likely to happen, don't go crazy trying to chase some of these props, because I know folks are going to try to target Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Yeah, Boyd had a receiving prop of over 39.5 yards. Possible that he hits that. It's like, I don't want to say that one's more of a lock, because again, I think this Rams defense is going to cause issues. So to me, this game isn't that close script, I can't necessarily say I like any of the wideouts, because I think this game comes down more towards just dump offs to the running backs and trying to keep this game moving rather than, being a offensive shootout. Yes, I still think Joe Burrow's pass attempts make sense as a prop bet to make, just because I think they're going to be behind, and with the Rams running the ball, they're going to have to force the issue, just keep chucking the ball. So I like him for pass attempts, and I definitely like him head to head over Stafford for most pass attempts. I saw this on a couple of books. You can get Burrow versus Stafford at close to even money on who has more pass attempts. Hammer the Burrow line, because I don't think Stafford's chucking that much. I really don't see why Stafford would be throwing that much. So if you can get the pass attempts prop versus Stafford, take the Burrow side. But again, I'll be honest, I don't like going crazy betting on the Super Bowl, because you can get random stuff happening, but you don't want to chase. If you didn't have a great year betting, and I don't see why you would have, because my dad and I have been pretty good with picks this year. There's no reason to go that crazy trying to chase betting on one game, because something random could happen, but this one seems to be more straightforward. So I'm not saying to chase the team of destiny narrative. I'm telling you not to chase the team of destiny narrative, but I'm not saying bet the house on the Rams either, just because we've seen Matthew Stafford implode. I mean, if not for an Aaron Donald motivational speech to the defense that we will not lose to future Fox analyst Jimmy Garoppolo, we are not losing today. We're going to win this game. That's not exactly what Aaron Donald said, but that's what he meant. He's not losing to Jimmy G. But the Rams were struggling on offense. But here's the deal. And for those who want to talk up, it's like, well, they were playing Jimmy G and, they almost lost. Here's the reality situation. Run defense wise, San Fran, top 3 in the league across the board in every category. Here's things you need to know about the Bengals rush defense. They are 28th in the league. In early run plays, their rush defense. Do you want to guess what the Bengals ranked in the NFL on early down. That's so first down rush attempts in run defense. Their efficiency in stopping the run. You want to know where the Bengals rank? 32nd. There are only 32 teams in the NFL. So the Bengals were dead friggin' last in stopping the run on early downs. You know who was number one? The 49ers, the team that the Rams do not match up well against, that they just beat. They were number one. What the Rams love to do most, the 49ers counteract and shut down. They still found a way to win that game. Who was the other obstacle they had to go through? Tampa Bay, 9th in the early rundown defense. Still top 5 rushing defense in the league this year, with Vita Vea in and out of the lineup. When Vea is healthy, they're basically number one. But based on the stats of the year, they were only top 5 this year. They slipped a bit to, instead of being in the top 3, they were top 5. But that's the situation. They were handling Tampa, moving the ball, even with that. So this Rams offense, when they were being efficient as they were in the first half against Tampa, they could shred you anyway. The Bengals secondary is just as bad as the Tampa secondary, and they have a worse rush defense. So again, I'm not saying you can't bet on the Bengals. What I am saying is the odds are heavily against you, and the lines that you're getting to bet on the Bengals aren't rich enough. It's negative expected value, because the percentages of the likelihood of success for the Bengals are not reflected in the number that you've been given, because the odds makers work this so it makes the Bengals seem like they have a better chance than they actually do. So the payout is not nearly as much as it should be on the money line. The spread is too small for the favoring the Rams. It should be higher, like I said, with the 6.5. So this is one of those where, yeah, you don't like the number, you don't like the payout of the Rams. Yeah, it's the favorite. Yeah, you get more money if you get the underdog right. I'm just saying, for underdog matchup, this is heavily not in their favor. Even though I think the Chiefs are a better team than the Rams. I think the Chiefs are a better team than the Rams. The Chiefs are a far easier matchup for the Bengals and what they like to do than playing the Rams. That's just the reality situation. Styles make matchups. The Rams are a bad matchup for the Bengals. The Rams would have had way more issues with dealing with the way the Chiefs operate than how the Bengals want to operate. Because with Mahomes and his wide receiving core, the issue the Rams would have had was figuring out Kelsey, because again, it would be similar to the situation. They want to rush with the 4, but then you get the linebackers going up against the tight end. Like, this is why they also kind of struggle sometimes with the 49ers, because the same way Kittle operates, Kelsey can do those exact same things. And you're playing a better quarterback. And you would have a pass rush that is basically I would say the Chiefs pass rush is slightly better than the Rams, slightly better than the Bengals pass rush, and the secondary is comparable, to be honest. So, to me, the Chiefs would have been a worse matchup for the Rams. Not by much, but it's a slightly worse matchup. But far and away, the Rams being the matchup for the Bengals is far worse for the Bengals than if the Chiefs had matchup. It's like, it's not a great matchup for the Chiefs, but it's a horrible matchup for what the Bengals are trying to do with their offense. It's just not a great matchup. So to me, you can bet the Rams sack prop. It's 3.5. It's just, you can bet the over for the game for both sides, over 5.5, because I still think the Rams' offensive line is susceptible enough. Also, that's the other thing. The Chiefs definitely would have been if the Chiefs had been in this game. This sack line's probably closer to 6.5 to 7, or more in terms of sacks. I honestly believe that. They just don't respect the Bengals pass rush as much as some of these other playoff teams, and fairly so. It's just the way it is. But I just, when you look at this as a whole, it's harder to find ways of justifying the Bengals outside of taking them on props or throwing it into a teaser. Because I think there's a very real scenario where the Bengals don't hit 21 points. You can bet the under on the Bengals team total, and the game total can still exceed 48. Because I still think, even if the Bengals aren't scoring, I think this Rams team can just run it down Cincy's throats if they're up, and they could just pound it, and that Cincy defense will break if they're on the field long enough. I just look at this. This is a case where you can certainly bet on a chance of a non-QB winning the MVP. Whether it's Aaron Donald if he gets a couple of sacks, or Cam Akers has a big day running the ball on the ground, or if it ends up being Sonny Michel having a good start and they ride the hot hand and Sonny Michel gets in the end zone a couple times, I could see a non-QB winning MVP. It's not that hard. So that's all I got for a betting perspective, but I thought it was important enough to just break that in a separate video just so you guys understand. Also, just a PSA, do not bet the coin flip. Seriously. If you're paying the VIG, and the VIG means you're not getting even money. If you're paying VIG on betting the coin flip, stop. Just buy your wife or husband flowers or something for Valentine's Day. Like, do something else with your money. Do not pay the VIG on the coin flip. Come on. It's like, that is the worst bet you can do. So that is my PSA. I do it every year. But betting outright on the coin flip, that's just a terrible prop bet. All right. I'm getting out of here. But good luck, everyone. Enjoy the game. And until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major outlets.